It's strange because she's always insisted that Leah, my half-sister, and I never address her that way. I suppose in her mind, Mom sounds like a title for someone older, and she's never been able to see herself that way. She's repeatedly told us that she feels too young ever to be called a mother, as if that title might weigh her down. My envious mother couldn't accept that I got pregnant before her favorite daughter, so she brought my ex. What he revealed made her rethink everything. When Jackie became pregnant with me, neither she nor my biological father, Avery, planned the pregnancy. In fact, she always refers to it as unplanned, a word that has lingered in my mind over the years, whether she realizes it or not. Jackie and my dad were high school sweethearts, but they were impulsive and not exactly thinking about the consequences when they ended up in this situation. When my dad learned that Jackie was pregnant, even though Jackie didn't always acknowledge it, it was clear that he wasn't interested in being a partner to her. He agreed to pay child support and to be there for me alone, but that was the end of his involvement. He wasn't going to settle down with her or continue their relationship. She had expectations about what their relationship might be like, and perhaps in some small way, she thought that having a baby would make things more serious between them. But my dad didn't see it that way, and the reality of that deeply disappointed her when I was born. Things didn't get better. On the contrary, they got worse. Jackie couldn't let go of her resentment toward him, and it showed every time he visited. My dad would come to pick me up or just to spend time with me, but instead of keeping things civil, Jackie would almost always start a disagreement with him. She seemed to find reasons to argue. Even when there was no reason, she would latch out over minor issues or bigger ones, mostly because she was upset that he didn't want a relationship with her. I didn't question her because I didn't understand what was happening at the time. Every time she made a negative comment about my dad, Jackie would say things like, "He doesn't care about you enough to marry me," or "Your dad doesn't do his part." As a child, I couldn't process what she was saying, but as I got older, I started to see things differently and realized that my dad wasn't the person Jackie made him out to be. He was steady and always showed up for me. The more I matured, the more I realized that my dad was doing everything he could to be a good father. Despite the circumstances, he wasn't perfect, but he certainly wasn't the absent parent Jackie claimed he was. He was always on time for the weekend and eager to spend time with me. He never missed a child support payment, and I could tell he genuinely loved being around me. What mattered most was that he was present. When I was 6 years old, Jackie met Mike, the man she would later refer to as the love of her life. Mike is a kind, easygoing person who welcomed me right away. He has always treated me like his own daughter, which has meant a lot to me, especially considering how complex my relationship with Jackie has always been. Mike was never the issue. He was gentle and dependable and made an effort to be there for me in ways Jackie often didn't. It was surreal to watch her with him and realize how different she could be. Even though I adore Leah, there's no denying that Jackie's treatment of the two of us has always been painfully uneven. From the moment Leah was born, it was clear she was Jackie's favorite. Jackie showered Leah with love and attention in a way I had never experienced. I would watch them together, Jackie lighting up around her, buying her gifts. When Leah was born, I was overjoyed. I loved her from the start, and we've become incredibly close over the years. But while Leah was and still is the center of Jackie's affection, I felt like an afterthought. Jackie was distant and almost cold toward me. She rarely spent time with me, and when she did, there was always tension, as if my presence annoyed her. Of course, it made me feel overlooked because I watched my sister receive all the love and attention I wanted from Jackie, and it hurt. It's not like I didn't try to earn Jackie's affection, because I did. It's difficult to describe how deeply that kind of favoritism cuts. It's not just about the material things, it's about the emotional distance. Jackie seemed to reserve all her warmth for Leah, making me feel like I didn't belong. Sometimes, instead of buying me something new, she would give me my cousin's old items and say I didn't need anything new anyway, and that I should stop wasting money unnecessarily. Every year, when Leah's birthday came around, it was an extravagant affair filled with decorations, gifts, and a crowd of excited family and friends. You could tell Jackie poured her heart into it. I'd be lying if I said it didn't sting to see my mother treat her so differently, as if Leah were her only child. I remember how painful it was to witness the contrast between Leah's grand birthday celebrations and how my birthdays were barely acknowledged. It was another reminder that I wasn't as valued, that I didn't deserve the same effort or love. I wasn't even allowed to have friends over for a party, not once. Some years, all I got was a pizza, and that was it. No cake, no decorations, just another day. When I pointed out how unfair it was, Jackie didn't try to make things right. Instead, she would respond coldly, saying things like, "Go tell your dad about it," or "This is his doing," as if he were responsible for how she treated me. But my dad always tried to make up for it. He understood how important birthdays were to me and did his best to make them special. He was the first to call, to send gifts, and to show up. He also noticed the difference in how Jackie treated Leah and me, and it bothered him. I remember a few times he tried to talk to her about it, not to argue, but to understand. Jackie, however, would get defensive, and the conversations would quickly become heated. She told him he had no right to say anything because she was married to Lee's father, not him. In her mind, that justified the difference in how she treated us. When I went to college, it became even more obvious how little Jackie invested in our relationship. If anything, she seemed relieved that I was gone. She barely called, and when she did, it felt more like an obligation than genuine concern. It hurt, but I tried not to dwell on it. I hoped that, in time, whatever issues she had with me or my dad would fade, and we could maybe build something better. Ironically, Mike, Leah, and my dad stayed in touch far more consistently than Jackie ever did. They visited me, checked in on me, and genuinely wanted to know how I was doing. When I graduated, it was a huge moment. My dad, Mike, Leah, and even Jackie came, but only because Mike convinced her to. I knew she wouldn't have come otherwise. Still, having them there meant a lot. I met Ian, my ex-boyfriend, and we became serious quickly. For a while, things were wonderful. He supported me and made me feel seen, something I hadn't often felt with my family, especially not Jackie. When she met Ian at my graduation, she seemed unusually fascinated by him. At first, I thought nothing of it. Then she began making odd remarks, like how she couldn't believe someone like Ian was with someone like me. The first time she said it, I brushed it off. I was used to Jackie's comments, which were often more hurtful than she likely realized, or maybe she did realize. But she said it again, and this time in front of Ian. It wasn't just hurtful, it was humiliating. I felt a knot in my chest and calmly told her that what she was saying was inappropriate, that she was implying I wasn't worthy of him. She even joked that I must be some kind of charity case. I wanted her to understand that I was more than just my appearance. Ian looked uncomfortable, not just for me but for everyone there. My dad, who usually avoided arguments with Jackie, gave her warning looks, hoping she'd stop before things got worse, but she didn't. It was just another example of how she managed to dampen even the most important moments in my life. After that day, Jackie and Ian connected on Facebook. Ian told me she sent him a friend request and asked if it was okay to accept. I told him it was up to him, and he accepted out of politeness, because we both knew she'd bring it up if he didn't. Over the 3 years we were together, Jackie, who had shown little interest in my life while I was away, made sure to keep in touch with Ian online. She would occasionally comment on his posts or message him. Nothing overtly inappropriate, but there was a sense of familiarity that didn't sit right. Jackie had never paid me that kind of attention. Ian even pointed out that he thought Jackie was envious of me. He noticed how she seemed to be in quiet competition with me, belittling my accomplishments, undermining my confidence, and showing unusual interest in my relationships. I was surprised. I'd never considered the idea that Jackie might be jealous. I had always chalked her behavior up to unresolved feelings about my dad or just general indifference. But the more Ian mentioned it, the more I saw it too. Whether it was about my appearance, my relationships, or even my accomplishments, Jackie always found a way to make me feel smaller, and when I considered the possibility that perhaps she was jealous, it all started to make sense. Knowing that my mother might be jealous of me made me more cautious around Jackie and made me guard my feelings more tightly. I wasn't sure how to handle it, but it changed the way I interacted with her. I couldn't look at her behavior the same way anymore. What had once seemed like coldness or indifference now seemed more like a twisted sense of competition, and that thought, more than anything else, caused me to emotionally distance myself from her. After 3 years of dating, Ian and I broke up even more amicably. We agreed that, although we still cared about each other, our lives were taking different turns, and it was time to part ways. We agreed to stay friends and stay in touch, but as is often the case, life got in the way. Ian and I both became busy with our own lives, and soon after, we lost contact completely, and that chapter of my life quietly closed. Then, 2 years ago, I met Phil, and everything changed. He was and still is everything I could have ever wanted in a partner. Phil is kind and considerate. It wasn't something we had planned for right away, but it wasn't an unpleasant surprise either. This year, we found out I was pregnant. Phil and I had always dreamed of starting a family, and while the timing may have been unexpected, it felt right. We talked openly about our dreams and our future, and for the first time, I started to see a real path towards the kind of life I wanted, a life filled with love, stability, and eventually a family. I'm truly happy with him, something I don't take for granted. The first thing we did was get married. It was a small, intimate ceremony attended only by close friends and family, and Leah was my bridesmaid. Having her by my side that day meant the world to me. Jackie, my mom, attended the wedding, but I could sense her disapproval throughout the ceremony, though I wasn't entirely sure why. She looked frustrated, as if something about the entire event bothered her. Later, when we had some alone time, she finally let her feelings out. I couldn't help but laugh when she told me that she had hoped that I would reunite with my ex-boyfriend Ian, even though she had stated bluntly that she never wanted me to marry someone like Phil because she believed that I was making some sort of mistake by being with him. It was such a ridiculous suggestion, so disconnected from the reality of my life, that I now wondered if she had had too much to drink at the wedding and was just talking nonsense. The idea that she was still stuck on my ex when I had moved on and found happiness with Phil was almost comical, so I tried to ignore it. This time, fortunately, I had other things in my life to focus my energy on. I had Phil by my side, a baby on the way, and for once, I chose to focus on the love and joy in my life, rather than Jackie's negativity. She made remarks like I've learned to do over the years, but deep down, it did bother me that even on one of the happiest days of my life, my wedding day, Jackie couldn't just be happy for me. Instead, she found a way to criticize and make me feel like I wasn't living up to her expectations. We both agreed that it was best to keep the big news of my pregnancy a secret until after our wedding, so that no one would question us. My dad, Leah, and Mike were ecstatic when we told them, and their joy made the moment even more joyful. However, as was to be expected, Jackie, my mom, had to add her negativity, as if she couldn't just let me enjoy that happiness without making a sour remark. She began by asking if I was certain about becoming a mother, saying that I might regret becoming a mother without first considering it. She seemed to be projecting her own regrets or unresolved issues onto me, which caught me off guard. I couldn't believe that even in this happy moment, she couldn't support me without making me question myself. But this time, I didn't let her words go. I was getting married to Phil, and the idea of her trying to minimize or overshadow my happiness, and worse, possibly doing the same to my child, made me stand my ground in a way I had never done before. I calmly reminded her that I was not her and that I would never allow her to. For so long, I had allowed her to walk all over me, criticizing my choices and making me feel inferior. However, this time was different, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate or undermine me any longer, especially when it came to my family. That's when Jackie revealed her true feelings. She said that she couldn't believe that I, the daughter she had always treated as second best, was the first to become pregnant and give the family its first grandbaby. She had always anticipated Lee's victory. As if that weren't enough, Jackie continued to rationalize that she simply wasn't prepared to become a grandmother so quickly and accused me of attempting to damage her reputation in social circle by having a child so soon after getting married. Hearing her say that was like a slap in the face. Not only did she openly insult me, but she also implied that my happiness as a pregnant woman was somehow a hindrance to her image. It was an astonishing demonstration of self-centeredness, even for Jackie, who wasn't concerned about me or my future as a mother. Instead, she was only concerned with how she would appear to her friends. The conversation quickly turned into a heated argument with strong feelings on both sides, but I asked her to leave. Ever since, Jackie has been sending me numerous messages attempting to guilt-trip me into apologizing to her for my outburst. I told her that if she felt that way, she wouldn't have any role in my child's life. I'd also told her that if her reputation was more important than being a supportive mother and grandmother, then she was officially banned from my child's life, and I would be going no contact with her. She says she just wanted to be honest about how she felt and has accused me of being overly sensitive due to my pregnancy hormones. She believes that, as my mother, she has every right to express concerns about my hasty marriage and pregnancy. Update 1. As it has been a week since my last update, Jackie finally had to back down. Leah and Mike reportedly called her out for being insensitive to me and asked her to move on. It appears that Jackie has also realized for the first time that I was being serious about removing her from my life and realized that I couldn't stand her harmful behavior any longer, especially when it came to my child. She has grudgingly apologized to me and promised not to be so critical of my pregnancy or marriage ever again. Update 2. 3 days ago, Leah threw me a gorgeous baby shower. Everything went exactly as planned, and Jackie was there, of course, but she seemed unusually anxious that day. I noticed that she kept looking at the door. Jackie almost leaped off the couch and announced to the room that she had a surprise for everyone. I had no idea what to expect. I thought it might be something small, like a gift or a guest I wasn't expecting, but I could never have predicted what would happen next. To my utter surprise, it was Ian, my ex-boyfriend. He looked completely out of place and uncomfortable as my mom dragged him into the room, parading him in front of everyone. My mom then told me that she had talked to Ian for weeks and had persuaded him to finally show up and give me another chance. She then looked at me and said that she knew that I was settling for less by being with Phil, but that I did not have to worry anymore because Ian was here for me. To put it simply, my guests were all horrified and exchanged shocked looks after hearing what my mom had to say. It was a strange spectacle that left me completely bewildered. I kept turning my gaze from my mom to Ian in an attempt to understand what was happening. At that point, Ian, who was both embarrassed and apologetic, began talking. He first apologized for interrupting the baby shower and told me that he never wanted to be here, which only made my confusion worse. He then went on to explain that my mom had messaged him on Facebook, sending him constant messages, demanding that he declare his undying love for me. She was certain that he and I were meant to be together and that I was making a grave error by having a child with Phil. The whole situation was so ridiculous that I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Ian explained that he had no intention of rekindling anything between us, but he felt compelled to come and tell me directly how upset my mother had been acting behind my back. He was there to reveal my mother's manipulative behavior, and as he spoke, I could feel the tension in the room rise. My mom, in her disconnected state, had told him that I was wasting my life by becoming a mother so young and that she wanted him to take me away. She never expected him to talk about her in that way, so Ian turned to Jackie and told her to stop messaging him. He said she should move on with her life and had no right to disrupt my baby shower. Throughout my life, I've seen my mom's frustration and defensiveness, but for once, she didn't have a quick defense or comeback. Ian went on to tell her that he had always known her to be envious of me and that he was very disappointed to see that she had never changed despite all these years. Jackie stood there dumbfounded as Ian continued to tell her. Even though it was awkward, I thanked Ian for coming and for having the courage to tell me what was happening. Despite the awkwardness of the situation, he handed me a small gift he had brought for my baby, which was sweet of him. After Ian finished, he turned to me and apologized again, saying he was sorry for the disruption, but felt he needed to reveal the truth about my mother's behavior because he wanted me to see the true face of Jackie. I could barely believe what had just happened. My mother had attempted to undermine me in the most upsetting way imaginable. That moment confirmed everything I had long suspected, that my mother wasn't just difficult or critical, but that she was actively trying to sabotage the most significant moments of my life. After Ian left, the room was filled with an awkward silence, and all eyes were on my mom, who appeared to wish she could disappear. She was on the verge of tears from embarrassment. She had been working against me out of jealousy and her insecurities. Since then, neither Leah nor I had spoken to Jackie. The other family members who attended my baby shower have also spread the word, and no one wants anything to do with my mom. Now my dad has threatened Jackie to keep as far away from me as possible. I still can't understand the extent to which my mother will go to try to ruin my life. Update 3. It's been 8 months since my last update, and for everyone curious, our baby was born healthy and is doing well. Phil and I are doing great. Leah, it turns out, after he found out and confronted her about everything, she refused to apologize to any of us and tried to justify her behavior. He finally realized that if she could treat me, her daughter, in such a distressing way, then there was no guarantee that she wouldn't do the same to him or anyone else she claimed to care about. Dad and Mike have visited us multiple times, and we all get together regularly. None of us is in contact with Jackie, and Mike is currently separated from her. He fared well without her.